Hello everyone, welcome to next session of this training. In this particular session, we will be discussing about SAP system parameters. We briefly seen what is the system parameters, how the system parameters are saved in the SAP system, especially in the operating system level. However, in this specific session, we will be discussing more detail how the system parameter can be used and how exactly the system parameters are being read and used by the SAP system. This is one of the very important session in this particular training because you can change or you can control the entire system behavior using the system parameters, meaning to say that how many work process you wanted to have or how the systems are being connected. There are quite many thousands of system parameters which are available in SAP system, and we will see how we can use the system parameters. And please remember, it is not necessary that you need to memorize each and every system parameters and the usage, and it's also not possible because you have quite many system parameters. As soon as you also upgrade the system or the new version of the SAP is coming, then you will find new system parameters. So it is difficult to memorize all the system parameters, what is the default value, what is the acceptable value. So it's quite difficult to memorize it. However, the documentation for the system parameters are already available in SAP system, or you can also see that details in SAP helps. So it is not necessary that you need to remember exactly all the system parameters. You could also search if in case you forgot or something. In general, once you start working, some of the most common used system parameter you'll automatically comes to know. So it's not really complex that you need to remember all the system parameters. Now let's see how the profile files are being saved in the SAP system. We briefly discussed in our previous session the system parameters basically created by the SAP installation program, that is SAP Inst, during the installation of SAP system. In general, you have three different system parameters. This is basically a physical file, as we've seen, that is created inside the folder profile. Okay, so we have a start profile and the default profile and instant profile. In general, this is the sequence this has been read. This is the start profile to start the SAP system. That means whatever you define the start profile is basically the variables which are used during the startup of SAP system. So basically these are all saved in the operating system. And then the default profile is the next profile which will be read after the system is started. So the default profile is basically the parameters or the profile values which is applicable to all systems. Means that in an SAP system you will have a central instance and application instance. So let's say you want to have one value which should be applicable to all the SAP system, then we will maintain this value into the default profile. The third one is instance profile. The instant profile means it is specific to one instance, that is one application instance, or it could be also one central instance, how that specific instance should behave and what is the parameter value for the specific instance. This is the way how the profiles have been read. First, as I said, start profile. This is to process to be started, that is SAP system to be started. This is the naming convention of the start profile: start instance, then the instance number, then the host name. This will be the naming convention for the start profile. Okay, so this start profile basically used only the startup of SAP system. The next step will be the default profile. So basically default profile is also a, we can call global parameter that applies to all instances. The naming for this specific default profile is default.pfl. So in general, well, let's say you have some parameters which is common to all the application server, then we will maintain it here. For example, when we open the OS level file, we also seen the host name and the system ID, this kind of information. So this information cannot be changed from one application instance to another application instance. In that case, we can define these parameter values into the default profile. Then we have instance profile. Instance profile is specific for one instance. For example, let's say the work process defined for each instance may vary depending on the hardware size. For example, one instance can have 10 dialog work process and 5 background work process, or the other instance can have 20 dialog work process. There could be no background work process. Like this, you can change the configuration of each instance. Why we do that? This is because depending on the hardware capacity. So when you design an SAP system, it does not mean each and every central instance and application instance should have same hardware configuration. If it is like that, it is good because it's quite easy to manage. But the days goes on that when you add an additional application instance, basically you tend to keep the better hardware what is available. That specific application server could hold additional work process which may require. So in that case, you will configure more work process in that particular application server. So it depends on the hardware configuration as well as what is your requirement. The parameter value or the work process which you will be configuring could be different. Okay, so the instance profile will have the parameter value for the specific instance. So we have three different profiles: start profile, default profile, and instance profile. This is the sequence these profiles are being read. It could also possible that you have a profile value which could be overwritten by another profile. Okay, so this is three different profiles: start profile, default profile, and instance profile. This is quite important. You need to understand this one very clearly. Then only you could define which profile value should be configured in which profiles, whether it should be default profile or an instance profile. So it's very difficult. So it is quite important to understand how and what is the sequence these profiles are being read by the SAP system. Now let's see how we can view the profile parameters. In our previous session, we seen how we can view the profile parameters in the operating system level. Inside the Windows, we can directly open the profile file, and we could also see what is the parameters configured in the profile. However, we could also view this, or we could also maintain inside SAP. Now you may think why we need to do it in both the sides. So in general, what you see in the SAP operating system level is the active profile, yeah. But there are many values which is already by default configured in the SAP system that may not be there in the active profile. So if you want to see that values, so it's better to view or maintain using SAP system. The other advantage is if you directly maintain, or if you maintain all the changes in the SAP system, you can have proper logging mechanism and you can have proper version control when you are doing any changes in the profile. As I said, this profile parameters is quite critical change when you are doing any changes in the SAP system. So we need to have proper documentation and proper procedure when you are changing anything in SAP system. Okay, so let us have a look how we can see the profile parameters in SAP system. First, we have a program called RS param. Okay, this is the program which can be used to display all the profile parameters and its value presently available in a specific system. Again, this will give you comprehensive view of all the profile parameter and its value. So it's quite easy, just run this program, you'll get all the parameters and its value. And the next one is using a transaction code, RSet11. RSet11 is a transaction code which is used to monitor a specific parameter. And this also gives you quite a lot of information how the profile is being used and what is the minimum, maximum value and current value and so on and so forth. So let us have a look into our system. Okay, this is our SAP system. First, let us run the program. In order to run the program, you need to run the transaction code SE38. SE38 is basically an ABAP editor, or you could also run a transaction SA38. SA38, this is just to execute the program. So the program which we are talking about is RSParam, RSParam. Say execute, then click the execute button again. Then you can see all the parameter values which is available in the specific system. Apart from the parameter values, as we see in the technical values, you can also see the additional parameters. Basically, these parameters are configurable parameters. So like, for example, to point to a specific directory, we can create a parameter values. Okay, these parameter values, you can see dir_global. That means this is the directory, so it will point to this directory. You can also use these kind of values in programming as well. So this also a parameter value. So let's look into the values which we seen before in the profile. This you can see it here, ABAP/ number, then SAP GUI_RFC. This is also a value. So maybe we go to the parameter value which we seen for the work process. That will come under RDISP. So RDISP are mostly related to system parameters. So this should be RDISP/work process. That is WP. Here you can see RDISP/WP_NO_dialog. That is dialog work process. We have 10 work process. You can see user defined value, that is defined by user. System default value is 2, and this is system default value unsubstituted form. That means the actual form which is never changed. Okay, then you can see here dialog work process 10, and the background work process is 3. Then you have NQ work process 1, spool work process 1. This is update 1 and update 2. We have each 1. Okay, so how do we see that how many work process we have? We go to the transaction/SM50. You can see we have 10 dialog work process. DAA is dialog work process from 0 to 9. So we have total 10 dialog work process, and we have 3 background work process. So these are all being configured in the profile parameters. The next transaction is the RSet11, where we can see a specific parameter value. Let's say RDISP/WP_number of _DIA. Let's say display. Here you can see detail about this particular parameter. You can see the short description here, number of dialog work process and application area, that is a dispatcher and the task handler. Parameter type, it's an integer value, there is no numeric. Then changes, whether this, are we allowed to change these parameters? Yes, changes permitted. So what operating system this is applicable for all operating system. What is the minimum value? Minimum should be 2, maximum it can be 100. And you can see dynamically switchable means that can we change this parameter value when the system is running? In general, when you change any of the parameter value, that you need to restart the system in order to enable that specific value comes effective. Means whenever you start the system, only these parameters are being read. So if you want to have any changes in the parameter values, then after changing the parameter value, you need to restart the system. This is the general case. In some cases, this parameter value can be dynamically changed when the system is running. For example, this specific one, this is not dynamically switchable because whenever you change any additional, let's say, work process, so this is going to affect the processors and all other stuff. So in that case, if you want to read that value, we need to restart the system, then only it will be effective. So if the parameter value is dynamically changeable while the system is running, then you can see a tick mark here. The next one is same on all server. So let's say there is a parameter value. Whenever you change this parameter value, this will be affected in all application server. Then you can see this is enabled. Then the default value is 2. Okay, that is the minimum value. At the moment, the profile value is 10, and then the current value is 10. What is profile value? What is current value? Profile value is what is actually configured in the profile in the OS. What is configured in the SAP system. The current value is the value which is effective for the system. So the profile value, for example, now we wanted to change this particular parameter. I wanted to make it 15. Okay. So we will change the profile value to 15, but still you will have current value is 10 because you will have only 10 dialog work process running. Until unless you restart the system, the effective profile value will not be changed to the system. So once you restart the system, then you will have 15 work process. In that case, then the current value and the profile value will become same. Okay, so that's the difference. So you have the difference once you changed, but it is not effective. Okay, so in order to identify that kind of changes, you have profile value and the current values. Apart from this, you will also find the information about this specific transaction code, how we can use this transaction code. This is RSet 11 documentation. Then we have another tab which is called documentation. This tab will give you the detail about the parameters. So each parameters which you can find in the SAP system will have a documentation like this. That's the reason I initially said that you do not really need to remember all the parameters and its values. Basically, you have all the documentation. You can see that parameter, this is the parameter rdiff/wp, number of dialog work process, number of DIA. Then short description, number of dialog work process, parameter description, the number of work processes that are available in processing task of interactive user. Okay. So dialog work process means which is fulfilling the requirement of dialog users, that is interactive users. So this parameter will define how many number of work process will be available for specific instance. The number of work process is not, however, fixed for a total life of the application server, but it can dynamically changed by an operating system switching. Okay, this is another concept, operation mode. Operation mode we will come in the coming sessions. As even though I said that we cannot change the number of work process when the system is running, it is also possible to do in a different way, which is called operation mode. That's a very interesting concept. So we can dynamically change the behavior of the system. Also, that in that case we can change this. And that's what they mean to say. So we have quite a lot of information. What is the high value? What is the low value? Do we have any limitation in the operating system? And so like this details. This is quite information. The next way to check the profile parameter is using the command prompt. We have a command which you can check the profile parameter, SAP PFPAR check. This will give you the value of the specific profile parameters. You can also specify which profile and the parameter value, then it could give you the details in the command prompt. Next, let us see how we can maintain this profile parameter. Okay. As we've seen, we have two elements of this maintaining profile parameters. First one is in the operating system level, and secondly, we maintain inside the SAP system. So in the best case scenario, it is always recommended that you use the SAP system to maintain the profile parameter to keep the system consistent. During the maintenance of profile parameters, you need to follow several steps. Okay, first one is the step number 1 we call is import. As we said initially, when the system is being installed, these profile parameter files are created by the SAP program in the operating system level. So in a fresh SAP system, you need to import these files into the SAP system. Unless you import it, that these files and the values will not be available to SAP system or to the database of the SAP system. We can use a transaction called reset10. The transaction which we have seen is reset11, that is to see a specific profile parameter. reset10 used to maintain the profile parameters. So the first step is import the profile parameters or import the profile values, then we can edit the profile. Okay. So we have three different profile: instance profile, start profile, and the default profile. So these three profiles are three different files. As we said, this is, let's say, this represents that profile which was generated during the installation, and this is the active profile. So at the moment, let's assume that we install the system. Let's see how we can edit these profiles. Okay. So once you edit the profile, then you need to save the profile. So once you save the profile, then the profile value will be saved in the database, or let's say the database which we are using, whether it's Oracle or MS SQL or any other database. In our case, we are using Oracle. So these values also will be saved in the database for reference purpose. Then you need to activate these profile parameters. Once you activate these profile parameters, then the changes will be written to the operating system in a OS level. Then it will be active. Let's say if this profile parameter which you have changed need a restart of the system, then you restart the system, then the active profile will be available after the system is restarted. As I said, you could also maintain the versions. So once you create different version, then you can maintain it quite easily. You could also check the consistency of the profiles parameters which you have changed during this process. So we have a check called consistency check, so which will help you to check whatever the changes which you have done is consistent. So it will also compare the difference between operating system level and the database level. This could be also done by comparing the files. You can also check the consistency of this profile. Okay, kind of a syntax check or validation. Probably let's have a look into our system, then we will understand this more detail. Okay, here we are in our SAP system. Let's go to the transaction reset10 reset10. Okay. To import the profile, you can simply click here and import. So you can also import all profiles. So we have many profiles values. For example, if let's say you have multiple application server, then you need to import it one by one. Instead, you can also import the profile at once. You go to utility, then import profile and say of all active servers. And you can see all the profile have been imported correctly, successfully. Okay. And it also gives some error message in red and some warnings. We will come to this later. So this is how we import the profile. Okay, this is, even though this is fresh system, the import profile was already done, just to show you how this is working. Yeah. So now you can see the profiles. We have three different profiles. We have the default profile, instance profile, and the start profile. Let's say if you have more than one application server, then the instance profile could be more than one. So in our case, we have only one application server, so that's the reason we have only one instance profile. And here you can see some profile editor or edit profile. So here you have three different options. So these three different options used for three different purposes. So administration data, that means this gives the detail about the profile itself. So let's say go to the display. I have to select one profile at least. Okay. So you can see this is a default profile and the version is 002. That means there is some changes were done in the initial profile. So let's go to administration data. When you go to display here, you can see this profile is default. This is automatically generated imported profile. And you can see the location of the profile file. So you can also change it here. Let's say you wanted to have a different file name or somewhere else you want to keep it, you could also do that. You can change it here. Okay, and here it says, okay, this is for this system, and this is an ND system, and who changed it, that is trainer 1, that is me, and today we changed it. Okay, then the default profile, this is a default profile. Okay, if you want to change it, go to the change mode, then you could change it here. And this is administrative data. Then basic maintenance and extended maintenance is almost similar. The basic maintenance, it will give you in a more easier way to maintain. Let's go to basic maintenance. Here you can see these are all the information actually have coming from the default profile. Let's say what is the database host, message server host, this kind of information. And the default client is 001. So this is basically in the profile file. This is another way to maintain it. If you go to extend maintenance, then you will know it far better. Here you can see this is the way it's available in the text file, right? So you can directly change it here. So it will update the text file by itself. Okay, this is the other way to maintain it. It's an extended way. This is the basic way. In the basic way, like it's everything in a column, you can just change it here. Okay, this is how we can maintain the profile. Okay, so let's take one profile value and change, and then you will understand how this is going to work. Let's take the our profile parameters which we have seen for the number of dialog work process. At the moment we have 10 work process. Let's decrease this work process to 8. Okay, so that is maintained in the instance profile, right? This is specific to instance. Let's say extended maintenance. Now I'll go to change. Then let me go to the parameter here, rdisp/wp_no_dia. At the moment this is 10. So I wanted to change this. So if you want to change this, I can just simply double click here. Okay, then it will go here. Then at the moment this is 10. I wanted to change it to 8. Okay, so once you change, you need to save these changes. The saving this specific line, basically you will say copy. That means you are going to copy this value which you have done. Here if you see, you have a new command. It's automatically added. This old value was 10, which was changed by this person. So old value was 10, the new value is 8. So if you change it again, then you will have another one more line, 2. Then the old value will be 8, and what will be the new value, and who changed, what date and what time. Like this we can trace back the changes. So if in case you have some problems and you want to trace back what was the old value, this is the best way to trace it. Okay, that's the reason we wanted to maintain all these changes inside SAP. So right now we changed to 8. Let's go back. Now we need to save it again. Okay, so let's say copy. That means we are going to save the changes. Now let's check the consistency. If you see the consistency, you have some errors, and it says Java instance profile. So this is inconsistent. Probably this is not there. The Java instance startup instance properties available in some location, but this is the actual location that we need to change it. So you can see some errors, and you can also see some warnings, that this is inconsistent. So at the moment this is not a real problem, so let's keep it like that. Okay, this is how we can check the consistency. So let me go back. Okay, now you can see instant profile, it's not saved. Okay, now you need to save these changes. Okay, you need to, once you save the changes, it will create a new version for this profile. So incorrect parameter detected, display the value, because as we've seen before that there is a lot of parameters which is not correct. Okay, that's the reason it's showing it again. Do you want to activate this profile? Say yes. That was our fourth step. Okay, before the version was 3, now it is changed to 4. Yeah, new version. Before, if you should have noticed, it was 3, now the version is changed to 4. This is the active version. Okay, so the warning message it gave a message saying that even though you changed it, you need to restart the system in order to be make the changes effective. Okay, so let's say now we change the profile parameter. So let's see that value in the operating system, whether it is changed or not. Now we are in our SAP server. Let's go to USR SAP SID, then sys, then profile. So the profile which we have changed is instance profile. So this is a profile. Okay, and remember one thing, whenever you are working in a live system, don't directly change the profile values. It's always easy to take a backup of these values, because these values are quite important. Just create one folder called backup with a specific date. Just zip everything, copy it, and keep it there before making any changes. In general, whenever you do any changes in the live system, take backup before you do any changes. We are talking about the ERP systems. So if anything goes wrong, or if your changes is unsuccessful, you can revert it back. You can also see here it is creating different versions for your backup, but still in the safer side, please make a backup before you make any changes in the system. So let's open this profile file. Let me open with Notepad. Here you can see this is the version 4 created by user trainer 01, and this is the parameter which we have changed. Okay, this dialog is 8. The old value used to be 10. We also, like, we did not do it by ourselves, so the system already put a remark here so that we know who changed it and what time it was changed. Here you can see old value, it was changed by me with this date and this time. Okay, this is the new value. So still the SAP system will have 10 dialog work process. Let's go to SM50, and we have 10 dialog work process. Okay, let's restart the system, then we will see how the system is behaving. So let's go to SAP MMC console. You can stop. Okay, this will take some time. Okay, let's continue when the system is stopped. Now you can see the SAP system is entirely stopped. Let me start the system again. Now the SAP system is starting now. So let's wait for some time to system to start. Now it looks the SAP system is already started. Let's have a look into the work process. We can see the work process in wait state. That means the system is ready to use. So let's log into the system. You can see the system is running now. Now we logged into the system. Let's go to the transaction SM50. Now if you see, we have 0 to 7, 8 dialog work process. See, this is the way you can change the behavior of an SAP system, or you can change system parameter values. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. Okay, with this, we are coming to end of this particular session. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next session. Bye.